Statistics show that over the past 30 years, we have actually seen an incredibly steep decline in the amount of child sexual abuse happening in America. Then how the fuck do you know that it's degenerate? I'm sorry, but like, this is stupid. Sparky, we can throw anecdotes at each other. We can throw anecdotes at each other all fucking day. I am not okay with it, and the majority of people that are in the LGBTQ plus thing do not even like it. So like, I agree that there are some people that are doing that. I just think that they're wrong.
Direction. You've gone too far this time.
And we're back. We've got Aircraft Sparky on the left and Will and his channel on the right. Like I said, the debate topic for tonight is progressivism and pedophilia. Aircraft Sparky, why don't you introduce yourself, tell everybody where they can find you.
Yes, I'm Aircraft Sparky. I am a conservative populist and a bit of a nationalist, but no, not an ethno-nationalist. You can find me on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch. And soon to be here at Comfy.stream. I appreciate Zena taking the time to do the moderation tonight. And of course, the Crucible BPF was more than courteous in allowing this debate to happen. So I'm very happy. And let's have some fun.
Yeah, we appreciate you having you back on. I believe you've had at least one or two debates in the past, which, like I said, I've seen and I enjoyed. Will, I believe this is your first time at the Crucible, if I'm not mistaken. Why don't you shout yourself out, tell everybody where they can find you.
Hey, my name is Will from Will and his channel. You can find me on YouTube. I stream there. I'm streaming there now, so let's keep the N-words to a minimum, okay? And yeah, I'm really looking forward to having this debate. So
yeah,
cool, we will. We'll this one. I will. You have my word. I will keep my my language TOS friendly. The chat, however, on Comfy has already crossed that line, so just don't pull that up on your stream, and you should be all good. So those of you that are not familiar, and Will, this is your first time, I'll quickly go over the terms of the debate. Each side is going to get a 7-minute opening statement, at which point then we're going to open floor cross-examination for roughly an hour and a half, just depending on how long it goes. Then you'll each get closing statements, and after that, we're going to go to audience Q&A and call-ins. And a reminder to everybody in the audience, if you're watching and you want to call into the stream, just go into our Discord, the Crucible fan Discord, get vetted by the mods, get a link to the stream, and you can call in and ask a question to the debaters yourselves. We're also going to be accepting super chats tonight through dono.chat. If you are on desktop, you can just click the donate link right below the stream. And if you're on mobile, you can click the link that is in the chat, which the mods will be posting perpetually. It's dono.chat, which is the Comfy exclusive payment processor. That being said, Aircraft Sparky, you are arguing in the affirmative, so we're going to let you go first. You have 7 minutes on the clock for your opening statement.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. Progressives are pushing the normalization of sexualizing children. The rhetoric behind this has ramped up exponentially over the past year. Progressive streamers such as Vosh would hide behind thought experiments that would start out as, should we lower the age of consent? Discussions attempting to normalize that would commonly consider sexual deviancy being considered more socially acceptable. This happens through small incremental measures known as grooming. It started with ideas like Kika's pride should be expressed in public parades. Next, the argument was children belong in pride. And that has pushed campaigns publicly, such as child-friendly drag shows, to become more mainstream. These online discussions have led to movements beyond strictly the online. Other movements are being pushed by progressives, including the introduction of sexually explicit books into school libraries. One of these books, Genderqueer, openly displays pornographic images with an intended underage audience. Combine this with the TikTok teachers who are openly talking about how they are deviating from state-approved curriculum in order to push their sexual morality on children without the knowledge of parents. In fact, they advocate that parents have no business knowing about their children's education. Therefore, the media campaign existed against the Parental Rights and Education Act in Florida, or what the progressives so cheekily labeled it as Don't Say Gay bill. These actions by overly zealous activists have lost Democrats the Virginia governor's election while opening the eyes of the public, contributing to the future Democratic losses politically, thankfully. Other progressive streamers, such as Mr. Girl, are now openly trying to normalize pedophilia. He frames the argument as it needs to be more acceptable to discuss for those who suffer from this affliction in order to seek help. Of course, this sounds all noble and good. However, he later appeared on Adam and Stitch's stream just the other day and described pedophilia as a sexual orientation. The implications of this refers to previous internet debates stating all sexual orientations are valid. These incremental escalations display the pattern of grooming found prevalent within the progressive movement. It should seem obvious at this point, progressive ideology is pushing pedophilia. Not all progressives are active pedophiles. However, their support of the ideology is supporting its normalization. The entire objective of this is to push the lines of acceptability further in a specific direction. That is the actual ideology of progressivism, to push what is considered socially acceptable through grooming in order to gain more political power. If everything is acceptable, then nothing is unacceptable. If non-pedophilic progressives continue to blind their eyes from these patterns, they are in fact complicit.
All right, is that it?
Yes, sir. I'm good.
Okay, so Aircraft has elected to cede the rest of his time. Will, you have got 7 minutes on the clock. Whenever you're ready.
Cool. I don't think I'm going to take that long either. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Will from Will and his channel. On the 29th of October, me and Aircraft Sparky got into a back and forth on Twitter that started from this sentence: progressive is just a dog whistle for child groomers. We engaged in a back and forth that at the current moment is neither here nor there, because after challenging Sparky to a debate on his beliefs, we have settled on framing our debate like this: are progressives pushing pedo normalization? That's the exact topic that we're going to be debating tonight. It's what we agreed to on Twitter, and it's what I'm going to be sticking to for the remainder of this debate. I am here to tell you, lovely folks out there, that you don't have to worry, because there's no progressive agenda towards pedophile normalization. If progressives were normalizing pedophilia, then one would expect to see things maybe like bills put forth by Democratic politicians to lower the age of consent. I can safely tell you that there's not a single national or state bill proposed currently by a Democrat on the docket related to lowering the age of consent. If progressives were normalizing pedophilia, perhaps we would expect to see a rise in crimes committed against children, perpetrated by people who vote left. I have more good news. Statistics show that over the past 30 years, we have actually seen an incredibly steep decline in the amount of child sexual abuse happening in America, somewhere between 50 and 60%. And also that pedophiles don't have one political ideology, so we're safe there. If progressives were normalizing pedophilia, why not add a P to LGBTQ+? I mean, fuck it, man. Just add another letter, and let's make pedophiles one of the most socially protected classes in America. Now, I don't think that's on the docket for progressives anytime soon, because pedophilia isn't a sexuality, and progressives dislike pedophiles just as much as conservatives do. We just look through a different lens in our attempt to stop the amount of harm being done to children. And our ideas might actually be working. I hate to break it to you, but the next time you unfortunately come into contact with a pedophile, either knowingly or not, it's going to be a 50-50 shot whether or not they voted for Joe Biden or Donald Trump in 2020. To conclude, I ask, no, beg, that people like Aircraft Sparky, as well as extremist progressives and conservatives alike, stop dehumanizing each other immediately. Because the reality is that the powers that be, they want us to hate each other. But the left and the right's ideas and motives are really not all that different. At the end of the day, we just want our kids to have a safe future. And that's it.
All right. Thank you guys for those opening statements. I do expect that there will be some blood sport going on here, just given the nature of the topic and based on those openers. You both seem to be very passionate. I will attempt to be as neutral as possible, and I'm really only going to interject if there's a lot of over talking or if we go way off topic or something along those lines. There's going to be roughly an hour to an hour and a half of open floor. But before we get into that, I do want to remind everybody, please, if you want to ask questions to either debaters, you can hit the donate tab right below the stream. If you're on desktop, if you're on mobile, then it's dono.chat, which will be pinned in the comfy chat perpetually throughout the stream by the mods. If you want to ask questions to debaters, and we are going to be taking callers, so you can get the stream link from the Discord, and you can come on stream and ask questions to the debaters if you so choose. All that being said, thank you guys for your opening statements. The floor is open.
So I love the fact that you brought up the idea that the P should be added to the LGBTQ AIPP LMNO whatever freaking acronym that, of course, everyone's accepted into. That was actually a campaign that happened about 2 years ago online, and certain groups like Gays Against Groomers are the actual ones that have prevented that from happening. However, there was a strong movement pushing towards that. I mean,
How strong?
the fact that it was on Twitter for weeks on end, it actually says quite a bit. And no, I don't really follow a lot of the fringe cringe that exists on Twitter by any means. In fact, 2 years ago, I didn't even have Twitter, and it would still tend to trend, especially with the idea of what is it? What do they call those people? The minor attracted people. Yeah, the people who need to go to the local mulching facility for fucking re-education.
Do we I don't understand. Do we think that societal normalization, like the Twitter, is a good thermometer for that?
I think social
I don't
media
really
is
think it
actually a
is.
great thermometer
Twitter?
because when things
You
start
brought Twitter.
trending, when things actually start trending, that means that there is a lot of people talking about this type of commentary. And yes, that is a way to normalize, sanitize, if you will, if we want to look at the latest progressive lens on what certain conversations do.
Sparky, you and me both know that Twitter consists of basically it's a large cesspit of extremists on both sides. So I don't really think that Twitter is really a good gauge of whether or not something is being normalized in our society. Because Twitter is not
Well,
representative of our society at all. I think you would agree with that, right?
so would you think Discord is more of a representation of
Absolutely
society?
not. Absolutely not. Are
Especially
you
with the
shitting me?
garbage that you were watching before this stream actually started over here at Comfy.stream. You
Yeah,
actually
that was
know,
some
you
garbage.
already know
Yeah.
that there is a lot of progressive movement pushing the idea of sexualization of children. You just want to deny the fact that it is progressives doing it. Well,
Can you define
what is
progressive
what
for
is
me?
Mr. Girl? What is
Wait, hold
Mr.
on. With all
Girl?
due respect, I think
What is
before we
Destiny?
continue,
What
before
is
we continue,
Vosh?
with all due respect, I think we
They're
need
all
to.
fucking progressives.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't think any of those people would label themselves progressives. Maybe Destiny, but
Destiny
Vosh.
does label himself progressive.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't really
Vosh-
give a shit what those people label themselves. To be honest, with all due respect, can we
Well,
can we come up
you
with
said-
a hold on?
you
Can
said
we
you
please
don't
come up
think
with
they
a?
label
I would like
themselves that, so let me
Sparky,
ask you this.
Sparky. Listen, I just want to
Here,
know.
Sparky, let's let him get his question out.
I just want to know, can we please just come up with a, I would like to come up with a definition for progressive that we both can agree on. That way that when we talk, we're not going to be talking past each other for an hour. Is that fair?
So the
And I'll even
idea-
write it down. That way we can agree on it.
So the idea of what a progressive is, progressive thinks that they need to enact change throughout the world in order to make the world a better place, and that's fine and dandy. However, the problem is there's no limit to the progress in which they push for. Once they reach their goal, they just push the goalpost a little bit further. We have seen this from Woodrow Wilson onward. For Christ's sakes, all of your social democrats, your socialist democrat type are progressives. They call themselves progressive. And honestly, look, they're the ones that like to say that what you label yourself is their reality. So, Caesar him and, Fairykin, they are what they claim to be.
All right,
mean,
we're
it's
getting
quite
it. That doesn't have
anti-science,
anything to
but-
do with what we're talking about.
Well, no, because
do you think that all Democrats? Well, no, I didn't. I just
No, not
wanted
all
to define
Democrats
it.
are
Hold on,
progressives.
I didn't say
No, all
anything about
Democrats are not
identity. I
progressive.
just wanted to define the. So not all Democrats are progressives. Do you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. No, not all Democrats are progressive at all.
Right. So in the Democratic Party, if I'm not mistaken, there are progressives and what is it, centrists and liberals. I think there's 3 big categories within the Democratic Party.
Sure.
Okay, so let's agree on that then. That's fair. I don't. First of all, if you think let's just go with this. If you think the progressives are pushing pedo normalization, if I'm to accept your definition of what a progressive is, which is just about a third of the Democratic Party, if that, it's honestly probably less than that if we're going to go by like official progressive title as deemed by what the National Democratic Party does, then I think you're dealing with a coalition that is small enough that you don't have to worry about it. And I don't think
No, you
that
don't.
and just because And also, like, first of all, we can get to that because I mean, I don't even think that that group is pushing for the pedo normalization. But like, the thing is, the way that you're wording a lot of this, Sparky, is that it's kind of like all Democrats and all left-leaning people. If you go on and you accept anything that the Progressive Party is saying, then you must be complicit in a lot of their crazier beliefs. There's crazier beliefs. There's crazy beliefs on the right side of the aisle too. And I don't beat you over the head with what the craziest people you can find in your party say. I just think that that's really unproductive for a conversation. And I kind of feel like what you're doing is you're saying, oh, well, all progressives do this. And then you're trying to kind of beat me over the head with like the craziest people that exist. Because I don't agree in the drag shows for children. And I don't think most progressives or left-wing people do. Regardless of whatever you read on Twitter or whatever you read on the internet, I think that if you were to go into your real world and touch some grass and ask some people around you, I think that even the majority of gay people in your community would be against the drag show. So,
well, there's a lot of gay people who actually refuse to be part of the LGBT because of the vocal minority taking over the movement and becoming the voice of said movement.
Do you think it's possible to be a part of the LGBTQ plus movement? I think that. Do you think it's possible to like be gay and not be a part of the movement?
Definitely.
Why?
Because they don't want to be associated with the filth that's being propagated by said group.
I think that there is a reason other than just societally why we group, those people together. And I say that because there is a reason why we don't put a P in LGBTQIA+. Right? Because P isn't a sexuality. But all of those things are sexualities. So theoretically,
but your boy, Mr. Girl, would actually argue that it is a sexuality.
I'm not Mr. Girl, and I'm not arguing for him. No, but you're one of his simps. You call me whatever you want.
Simped out for him all you want. I mean, look.
Does that have anything to do with the debate that we're having right now? With all due respect, like you don't need to pull in a third-party streamer.
He is kind of a prominent. He is kind of a prominent progressive voice, and the fact that you have defended it multiple times on stream. Look, dude, I can't help that you were the one that took the bait.
All right, you're not really saying, Sparky. You're not really saying anything. Can you get back to the debate? You're not really saying anything.
Okay.
That's okay. Get back to the topic.
One of the prominent progressive voices that you like to call out and you like to champion is Mr. Girl.
Yeah,
Mr.
all
Girl
20,000 of his followers. So you're telling me that he's starting a progressive movement with all maybe 10, 20,000 of his followers that's going to like change society? Like,
well, every movement starts off small, my guy. I mean, for Christ's sakes, even the Nazballs started off as a very small group, and well, we know what happened there. So yes, when you have progressives in mainstream politics, such as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, I mean, these are people that will push a lot of this stuff openly.
What did they
into
push?
the mainstream and do so? Let's see, defunding the police. How'd that one work out for?
Wait, hold on. We're not talking about defund the police. Please stay on topic.
No.
What did AOC?
So she is talking.
Wait, regarding the pedophilia, the topic we're talking about.
Yes, I know,
right now.
and she actually talked about how she thought that children at Pride wasn't a bad idea.
Yeah, children at Pride is not a bad idea.
Children at Pride is a terrible fucking idea. Why the fuck
do you know
would you bring a child to see a bunch of people fucking nude? Fucking shaking their ass at people? Is that the world you want for your children?
Wonderful. Okay, I'm glad. Sparky, I'm really glad that we're getting to the core of the problem. Because do you want to know what my biggest problem with Pride parades is? A lot of that open kink and people wearing half the clothing and all that stuff. But that wasn't originally what it was for. And I would also, I don't know if you've been to a Pride parade recently, but probably not, I could assume. But there's really not that much kink stuff there. I, as, a liberal person myself, would prefer it to be zero. But just because there's a small percentage of people at a Pride parade that are partaking in something that I don't agree with, does not mean that there is a large movement within the Progressive Party to push pedophilia. That's kind of the other thing I want to talk about. So we have a decent, I think, working definition of progressive. Could you give me your working definition for pedophile or pedophilia? Like, what do you think that is?
So the DSM-5's definition is someone who experiences sexual attraction to to prepubescent children. However, I expand it to include hemophilia, which would allow for teenagers to be included into that if they are under the adult age. I consider it to be pedophilia. In the private chat, I have linked to prominent sites, onefatherly.com, that talks about taking your kids to Pride Parade. That is a one hell of a popular progressive website. And of course, the Washington Post, where they talked about, yes, Keith belongs in Pride, and I want my kids to see it. That was a pretty famous article there. These are things that are going into the mainstream that progressive voices are pushing.
Wonderful. So you have anecdotes. You can pick as many articles as you want that are against
media
this.
fucking articles where they are actually talking about this stuff and encouraging this stuff. This isn't
Sparky.
anecdotal.
Sparky, for every article that you pull out,
mainstream.
Sparky, for every article that you pull out, I can pull out another article that will refute exactly the same shit that you're going to pull up right now. So how about we have a different conversation about anecdotes? I want you to show me something substantive that proves the progressives are normalizing pedophilia. Like, show me anything. Is there a law? Let's talk about the media, for instance. I want to give you this one, right? So you brought up a book, Gender Queer, right?
Gender Queer, yes.
So I think that this, Sparky, is a great example of the system at work. This is actually a great example that progressives are not pushing pedophilia normalization, because that book is currently the most banned book in America. Why?
Genderqueer
Because it is
school,
disgusting.
Library shelf, Hudson Board of Education decides.
Wonderful. You picked me one, but it is currently the most banned book in America. So in other words, the majority...
It's also recommended on the New York Times.
Wonderful. I don't
list.
give a shit. I don't give a shit, honestly. Who recommends what? Because what we're looking at are the actual actions and the consequences of what's going on. And it's currently the most banned book in America. So most people, progressives, Democrats, Republicans, hardcore conservatives, looked at this fucking book and decided, hey, this is some shit that we don't want to fucking teach our kids. So it's been taken out. And I agree with them. That is not a book that needs to be shown to kids for any reason, honestly. But, I mean, if you were to show it to maybe college students even, it needs about, 20 ounces of context. So, I'm still not seeing the progressive normalization, because if we were, maybe there would be, 20 books on the New York bestsellers that are about normalizing pedophilia. But you can name one that I don't... If it broke top 100, how long did it break?
So I added a list of 15 books for LGBTQ recommended for children. Who
recommends it?
Because those are
Who
all
recommends it?
It's all good.
No, hold on. Who recommends it? The New York Times recommends these.
Times.
15 books recommended by the New York Times that are for LGBTQ plus kids. So you've gone and you've read all 15 of these books?
No.
Well, then how the fuck do you know that it's degenerate? I'm sorry, but this is stupid.
Will, you should probably turn off your YouTube, man, because I'm about to say some stuff. You don't really want me to, man. Look. Here's
why?
The deal.
You can't maintain? What's wrong?
Oh no, I can. I just think it's ridiculous that you just refuse to even pay attention to any of this stuff that is going through the mainstream. And
but it's not mainstream.
It's only anecdotal. Here's the deal. Here's the deal, my guy. Okay, you gotta listen to this. When it comes to academia, it is very easy to skew all of their studies, especially since the majority of the people who they poll happen to be fucking college students begging for extra credits. I mean, if you've attended college, you would know this. No, it's not a cool story. It's fucking the way it is.
This is silly. I mean, so in other words, we have now discredited any kind of scientific evidence that either of us could possibly bring up because we're just going to throw out all kind of scientific analysis or studies?
No. I'm not saying all scientific, but most of your studies, your academic level studies, which are a lot of these things are going to be social science studies. They are mostly the people who they poll happen to be college-age kids looking for extra credit who has not experienced a fucking thing in the world other than getting a student loan and later going to be regretting it and asking for the taxpayers to pay for it. People who actually have children, who raise kids, live their life like normal fucking Americans, they won't sit there and be included in these studies because they don't have access to them. They're not polled because it costs money to go outside of the academia world. It costs a lot of money to do that kind of stuff. So
Interesting.
most
So
academic,
hold on.
most
So if I go to
academics
hold on. So
are
if I go,
done.
when I look at a study, I read a study. There's multiple parts, right? There's the, the initial little bit where they kind of like go over the summary of all their findings. They've got the
The
bit where they talk
abstract,
about the abstract, whatever we call
the
it, the methodology
methodology, yes.
afterwards. Correct. So you're telling me that out of all the research that I could possibly bring up, you're telling me that you would take issue with all of the methodology of the projects that I'm going to bring up because you think that college students are self-reporting
No, I'm
all of
using
this evidence?
I'm
I
using
mean,
very broad brushes to sit there
yeah,
and paint
I know you
most
are. This is what
sociological
I'm trying to
studies.
explain, is that you're using a
The
broad
deal
brush to
is,
paint
if
all
I read a
progressives
study,
as
I can sit there and
normalizing
look at it.
pedophilia. Buddy, you can cherry pick whatever the fuck you want all day, but the issue is that you're painting progressives with the broad brush. So you need to show me something that's like 70% of fucking Democrats believe this, or like X amount of percent of people believe this, because the way that you frame it initially is not that you believe that 30% of Democrats are pushing for X, Y, and Z. Because if you thought that it was just 30%, you wouldn't give a shit. You think that it's a significantly larger number than that, which it's just not. There is no culture inside of the left-wing party that is pushing for pedophilia normalization. And that should be a good thing to you. But instead you keep looking for a boogeyman by bringing up these anecdotes and trying to say that I can't use any of my studies because college students are,
Actually,
submitting
no, you
themselves
can
and
use them
donating
all
fucking
you
blood for
want.
money.
I would love
I would like to
fucking read
continue
them.
because they're
I would
extremely
love to read
valuable.
them. I
Uh,
would love to fucking read them.
all right,
Go ahead, link them, my
Sparky,
guy.
Sparky. With all due respect, are we gonna play the link game? Because I'm gonna be honest, I'm not gonna.
Yes, because look, if you're gonna
okay.
sit here and support this bullshit, yes,
So you
I
think-
want to see what the fuck you're basing it on.
You think I'm like that
Is it
bad
because of
faith
your
that
own
I'm just gonna
sexual
be?
attraction? 'Cause I really
Are we
don't
just
think
gonna?
that's
Are we
the
just
problem.
gonna? Are we just gonna ad
I-
hom? I'm just throwing it out there. If we're gonna start ad
hang on,
homing,
hang on, real quick. I tend to sympathize with what Will is saying. Like, we don't want to do just like this, my study versus your study kind of thing, especially if they haven't been exchanged prior.
I'd love to have the discussions and here's the deal. I want to read them, but if he's going to sit here and allude to these studies that I haven't seen, I'm going to discredit them without sight alone because I haven't seen them. Now I can go through a study. That's not a problem. It doesn't take long to figure out the methodology is solid or not. But the majority of college studies, if you've gone to a regular university, a four-year university, Will, you know this.
all right, hold on. So the
Sociological
main point that I want to
departments
get,
do most of their polls through
because
their students.
we're not going to be able to argue about the validity of the studies. So here's what I'd rather argue. If we were to, make a list, and on one side we have all of the studies that, are pro what I'm saying, and we put on the other side all the studies that are pro what you're saying, we're going to have about 20 million fucking studies on my side and maybe like 50 on yours. And that's being incredibly conservative. I don't even think you could find 50, because when I was out going to do the research myself, I think I found around 5 to 6 that were more in your position, and I found that the methodologies on those in particular were fairly egregious. So I would say maybe if you know the data of your studies and you know the methodologies of them, I would be willing to, for the most part, hear what you have to say, and then maybe we could dissect that. But that would be fairly boring, and we could go back and forth on my side too, and I can show you another study plus one for every study that you bring up.
So actually, the majority.
So maybe
of
we
stuff
just don't.
So the majority of the stuff that I have actually pulled up, I've only pulled up one study, and that was about the increase of child sexual abuse, and this was dated back to 2010, and it's gone up like 3 to 4%. It's really insignificant,
Okay.
but it has gone up. But when I look at the media shower that is happening, where even the New York freaking Times is pushing things to try to sexualize children, that means it is coming into the mainstream. I don't need a ton of academic research from a bunch of people sitting in their little academic bubble telling me that this shit isn't happening, because we are seeing it. We are seeing it in real time.
Where?
At where? Come on,
Where?
dude.
Where are we seeing
You
it?
saw the videos from the pride parades.
I don't know. I live in San Diego. I live in one of the largest cities in the world, fairly conservative, as well as, Where are we seeing
Yes,
it? I feel like you're seeing shit on the internet,
DC.
Sparky.
So
No.
we've seen it in DC, we've seen it in New York, we have seen it in Washington State. For Christ's sakes, we saw it in Austin, Texas. We've seen it in Dallas, Texas.
Seen
This
what?
stuff is
I'm sorry,
happening.
seen what?
Things
The-
like dragging your children to fucking.
Okay,
rash.
wait, we already did this. We already did this. The majority of gay people are not for those events. Do you want to know how I know? Because if they weren't, there would be significantly more of them. There are there are thousands probably of pride parades that go around the entire country, and all you hear about are the two that Alex Stein goes to and makes an ass of himself at. I'm sorry,
No.
but this is not actual evidence that there's a thing in the progressive wing of the Democratic Party that is normalizing pedophilia. That is not proof.
So I can bring up exact instances, and that's just not enough.
You can, for every instance that you bring up, I can bring up 3 that say the opposite, because there is just so much evidence on my side that I could just dogpile you with the amount of anecdotes that you could bring up.
Just like the donut shop that was firebombed in Tulsa, Oklahoma, about 2 hours from where I live right now.
Okay, just like the hospital that was firebombed by conservatives because they said that fucking abortions were happening there.
What year?
Dude, this
What
year.
year?
Like, anyways.
No. What year? Link it.
Here, Sparky,
Show me.
we can
I
throw
don't buy
anecdotes
you're
at
fucking
each
lying.
other. We can throw anecdotes at each other all fucking day. This is just silly. What you need to do is prove, you don't have one study that proves that the Democrats are doing this? Dude, don't fuck the progressives. Do you have a study? Dude, fuck progressives, okay? They're only 30% of Democrats. So let's make it even easier for you. No. Let's make it even easier for you. Can you prove to me that the Democrats are pushing it? I mean, this is like a significantly larger population base. You can't even prove the progressives are doing it. Can you prove the Democrats are doing it?
Dude.
You can't.
Evidence.
You have anecdotes.
What have you brought?
You have anecdotes.
What have you brought, child?
Here's the best evidence.
Dude.
All right, child sexual abuse, okay? So since the 1980s, since you brought up this statistic, it has dropped between 50 and 60%. So if in the past 10 years it has fluctuated 3 to 6%, that really isn't that big a deal. And you're really obfuscating from the point that for the most part, child sexual abuse is way, way, way down.
So the 200 and let's see, from September, 269 K through 12 educators arrested for child sex crimes since January of 2022. That's a small thing. That's a nothing.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
269 K through 12 grade teachers arrested for child sexual abuse charges since January of 2022. That's just nothing.
K through what? K through 9?
K through 12.
K through 12. Okay,
Yes.
so how many of those were how many of them were pubescent versus pre-pubescent, out of curiosity? You don't know?
It was very small. Yeah, most of them were like junior high and high school teachers, yes. So,
Okay.
pedophiles,
So tell me
under my
what
definition,
this
they're
means.
pedophiles.
Tell me what this has to do with progressives pushing pedophile normalization. Because I guarantee
Well,
that if we were able to come up with an analysis of these teachers, I am willing to put my thumb on it. They'd be 50-50 Republicans, Democrats.
I severely doubt that.
Well, we don't really know because it's just a fucking anecdote and it doesn't mean anything. Do you have anything
It's
that
just an
can?
anecdote and it doesn't mean anything. Jesus
How
Christ,
many
is there anything
how many
that means
teachers
anything?
how many teachers are there in the
I don't
entire
fucking
United
know.
States?
How many fucking
And you're
cops are
going
there in
okay.
the fucking
And
nation? And
I don't agree.
He's a
All right, Sparky,
dumbass.
I'm not arguing
you're
that
like,
with you because
"Burn
I don't
this
agree with that
motherfucker."
rhetoric either. I do not agree with that rhetoric either. So don't fucking try to beat me over the head with dumbass fucking leftist or right-oid talking points. Fuck that. I am not doing that to you. I want you just to I feel like it just should be easier for you to give me some kind of like really concrete proof that
Well, it's
progressives
already
are
been
doing
proven.
this.
Look, I have brought up things, and you're just like, well, they're anecdotal. If you're looking for some academic fucking research on this, there isn't much. There really isn't. You want to know why? Because they live in a fucking bubble, my guy.
Okay, hear me out. Okay, let's do your two. Okay, so 216 teachers. Okay, like that's technically I misspoke. That's not an
269.
anecdote. 69. Okay, so it's a number. I'll give it to you. Okay, how many? I'm just curious since I want to work with your number. Okay, let's be good faith. I really want to work this out. So let's say that the 269 teachers being caught for CSAM. Okay, or sorry, just CISA, right? Child sexual abuse. Let's say how many other types of abuse were picked out? Like, let's kind of like dissect this. Like, how many teachers are there?
So,
The practice K through
so
12.
the article is in the chat.
Okay.
At least 199 of the arrests, 74 of them were alleged crimes against students. We are looking at 269 educators, including 226 teachers, 20 teachers' aides, which, by the way, teacher aides do not exist in secondary education, and 17 substitute teachers. So those are actually some pretty hardcore numbers there. When you look at only 43 of the alleged crimes, 16% did not involve students. It is not known whether 10% of the alleged crimes involve students. So this is a.
Do you know what the statistic was 10 years ago? Out of curiosity, like how many teachers were caught for
because
child?
I don't care about 10 years.
But don't you think?
Hold
on. But don't you think that would be a good number though? Because if your 269 actually doesn't mean anything to me, right? 269 only means something if I can actually compare it to something. So I'm curious
if I had
I'll give you some time. Look it up.
And I gave it to you, would that mean something to you?
Okay, well, this means nothing.
There's a quantity. It's a known quantity.
I understand, buddy. I understand it's a quantity. Here's the thing. I'm trying to steel man you because listen, if last year, okay, let's say in 2021, okay, there were only 30 arrests, and then this year, oh no, the big bad progressive pedophilia agenda, it made 269 whatever teachers instead. That would be really significant. It's like I'm begging you right now. I'm asking you, try and find this number. Like, what was it in 2021? What was it in 2020? What was it in 2010? Because I'm willing to bet that if you keep going back decades, you'll find that number goes down and down and down. And if there is a spike, I would say maybe around the mid-90s or 2000s, that spike is easily attributable to more people being more comfortable with coming forward and discussing that they have had shit happen to them. So I really just don't think that this 269 number is really all that useful. But if it is, like, throw another number at me. Like, what was it some other year? I'd like to point out, too, there are currently 3.6... Oh, wonderful. There's 3.6 million teachers that teach K through 9 in America. 219% of them were arrested for child sex assault. I believe it.
19%.
200. Sorry, no, I said 200
people.
Okay, excuse me, 269 people. But I believe it. Okay, fuck it. Okay, whatever. What percentage is that? Like 0.00001% of teachers. So that's not a systemic problem. If you're like, Will, 1 year it was 0.0001, and now it's 1% of teachers are fucking kids. Like, we got.
So if it was if it was 0.0000001%, and it went up 0.1%, that's significant.
Just give me the numbers.
Understand?
Just give me the numbers. What are the numbers?
I can't find the numbers right off the bat. I didn't go back all that far. I was just looking at what was being talked about in the mainstream, because this is more of a mainstream conversation.
Wonderful.
So,
do you want to know no one's talking about it? Because it's not a problem that's worth talking about. And there's no research on it because there's no research to be done. If there was research to be done, it would be done. People do research on the dumbest shit humanly possible. So I reject all of this. I don't think that any of this is proven.
Okay. So actual stories from vetted news sources and everything means
it's not even that. It's not even that.
Gotcha.
It's not even that.
Gotcha.
No, hear me out. If there was a disproportionate amount of pedophilia articles being written about every week, like if literally every single day I'm going on Twitter and pedophilia is trending, okay, well that's worrisome. Why is this being allowed, right? Why is this trending? Why are people, you know what I mean? But none of this is happening. This is all just a scare tactic. If you're seeing it, it might just be because you're typing too many things into Google and they know exactly what they can do to get your attention. But
so hold on. So the New York Times is kind of big, right?
I agree.
Okay, so we're looking at 53,500,000 subscribers. That is in the second quarter of 2021. That's the closest number. So if one article is posted in the New York Times, that's how many people that publication reached by itself.
Not what percentage of America
the numbers,
is that? Huh? What percentage of America is that?
53 million, considering there's about 330,000. So
Wait, you say 53 million or 5 million?
53 million.
Okay.
It's just under 1/6 of the nation's population. Okay,
Nice.
and that's
All right.
not even including any other publications that would pick that up.
Okay.
That is
All right.
just
Hold on.
the
I'm with
Washington
it.
Times alone.
I'm with it. Okay. Hold
The
on.
New York
So
Times.
wait. Hold on a second here. So hold on. I want to work this through with you. Okay. So we said 53 million are people subscribed to New York Times.
Yep.
All right. So how many articles a week about pedophilia are written by the New York Times?
Dude, I haven't done that statistical analysis.
Well, clearly it's not enough that it's gotten on your radar, or Alex Stein's radar, or any right-winger's radar. Ben
So
Shapiro
the-
isn't talking
the
about how the
fourth-
New York Times is writing about pedophilia every day. This is what I'm fucking trying to get around to saying to you, my dude.
So the
It's
fourth
just like,
highest ranked publication in America, the New York Post,
okay,
does about 45 million people.
okay.
So the when you
Right,
say
you know what I'm gonna ask?
how
You know what
many
I'm
do
gonna
you
ask?
see a day?
Yeah.
Look, all I have to say is that in these large publications, they are actually putting opinion pieces that is pro these things. It is bringing it into the mainstream. I'm not even sitting there talking about the
Okay,
pup
all
pieces
right.
you see
Find
on
me. All right, I want
MSNBC,
find me.
CNN,
All right, now
everything
here's what I
else.
want you to do. Find me a piece that is explicitly pro pedophilia. Because here's the thing: if you send me something with a bit of nuance on it, like something that only like the left wings that are understanding the left wing dog whistles are gonna get, like, then it doesn't fucking matter because it doesn't inspire the majority of the population,
So-
as evident. But I think that I'm getting really hung up on the idea of just like, if it's one article, who gives a shit? But you could understand how if there were like 20 articles a day being written, or if there was some kind of like,
Why am I not hearing anything? Is that
Okay,
on
I
my
thought that was
side or
just
his
me.
side?
Will, we cannot hear you. Will, hey, Will, we cannot hear you. Will. Is that you can't hear him either?
No.
Okay, he's still talking. He's still.
Hey, that's
Will,
okay,
are
man.
you
He'll
there?
sort it out. He'll sort it out, man. It's all good. So here's the
Will,
deal,
I don't know if
Chad.
you-
So I
Will,
pull from
hold on,
conservative.
Hold on, aircraft. Hold on. Will, I don't know if you can hear us, but we didn't hear anything that you just said. We still cannot hear you. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. You hear me? Do you hear me at all? Okay.
I hear you, bro.
I know
Well,
you
look,
can hear me.
I
Sorry
pull from
about
both
that.
conservative.
Okay,
I
good.
pull from both conservative and
Okay, hang
liberal.
on, hold on. To be fair,
Sorry,
hold
hold
on.
on.
To be fair, Will was saying something, but we didn't hear any of it. So you're gonna have to start over with what you just said there, Will.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah, sorry, my audio thing kind of kicks out. Where was I ranting? Hold on, can we bring me back? What's the last
You
thing you
went
heard?
for about a minute straight
Yeah.
without
You
any,
went for about a minute and then cut out, and I was like,
I'm sorry.
Okay.
My apologies. What's the last thing I said, Sparky, that you heard?
honestly, we spent like the last 45 seconds or so. Like, does he even know?
Wonderful.
So, yeah. You were
Long story short, I think that there would be more articles or more things written. There'd be more TV shows. There'd be more books. There'd be more comics. There'd be more movies normalizing pedophilia if progressives were doing so. But there's just not. You can point to like 15 books, maybe. I mean, it's probably of all those 15, it's not that big a deal. Probably 5 of them
Oh.
maybe are pretty bad, but they're
so
banned,
when
right?
You have,
So
but no, they're not all banned.
Hmm.
See, that's the deal. In some places, they are. When you look at areas like Broward County and stuff, yes, they are because the parents actually got involved. But then you look back, Hudson Board of Education, they decided to keep genderqueer on the deal in lieu of the parents actually going, no, we don't really care for this, we don't want it. But they made that decision. Look, that is their Board of Education, and those voters should vote them the hell out, if not demand their resignation, stuff like that. But here's the deal. I have brought up actual stuff that has occurred, that has hit mainstream news, that has been featured on primetime shows on CNN, MSNBC, fucking Fox News, all the local shill fucking bullshit news, and you're just like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't
here's
matter.
the thing.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
What?
That's just anecdotal. So
That's
tell
fine.
me, what the
So-
fuck matters, my guy?
I think what would matter would be a large push in legislation to maybe change the age of consent. That would be, I think, a really big red flag, especially if it was Democrats specifically that were proposing
What
the
about
laws.
okay?
I
So
think
what
that'd be a
about a
pretty big
push
deal.
to transition children?
Well, we're not talking about transitioning children because that has nothing
Well,
to do with
actually, it is kind
pedophilia.
of into it because when you
I am not
talk
going to
about
argue. I
secondary,
am not going to
I
argue
know
with
you're
you
not going to
about
argue
transitioning children
because I know
because
you're
it has
not really all
nothing to
that
do with
big a fan
pedophilia.
of it. But yes, it is because it is sexualizing children.
No, it is not.
Oh, it isn't?
No, it's not.
Oh, huh.
Being trans has
So
nothing to do with being
no,
trans
no,
has
no,
nothing
no,
to
no.
do with
Wanting to
being
physically
sexualized.
alter a child's secondary sexual characteristics and even
Jesus
primary
Christ.
sexual characteristics of a child is a form of sexualization.
Interesting. Okay, that's fine. So, what percentage are trans people in the United States? Like, percentage of them do make up the United States?
Well, they're like what? Like 0.3%? Are you going to say they're statistically insignificant? Do you think they don't matter?
Exactly. See, the thing is that if we were seeing a
Oh, there we
societal,
go.
or if we were seeing a progressive
go.
push towards
They,
pedophilia normalization, then maybe we would see a higher number
so-
than 0.3 fucking percent. You know?
what was the study that that was brought up where people in San Francisco are like 40 to 50% more likely to claim that they are trans than someone is in Ohio.
I do not care. This has nothing to do with pedophilia. I don't care. Stay
Actually,
on
it
the
has
topic.
everything to do with the sexualization of children. Keep up.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't. Oh, wow. I'm amazed. Does anything matter?
Does
Is there
teaching
anything that's
children
true?
does teaching children about, like, you know, what am I trying to say? Heterosexual, excuse me, couples, like just being
Sucking
married
cock and
between a
shit?
guy and a
Yeah.
dude? That's not what I said.
I
So
mean,
like if if I have like if I have like a book, you know, that I'm reading to you know, like I don't know, 6th or 7th grader, and we get to the letter M, and it's like M is for marriage. And then it shows a picture of a man and a woman. Is that sexualizing children?
No.
If it showed a picture of a man and a man, is that sexualizing children?
Marriage is between a man and a woman. It's actually stated in the Bible.
Uh,
I'm not gonna sit
Okay.
there
Alright.
and accept the government has any role in marriage anyway. So probably the wrong
That
person
didn't
for
answer the
that.
question. Is it sexualizing
So,
children?
no. Is it sexualizing children? No, it's bringing them into it's normalizing sexual deviancy. But no, it isn't sexualizing children.
See, the thing that you really want to say, Sparky, is that because more people are becoming gay, and because there is a push
Why is
for
that?
acceptance and there's a push for LGBTQ plus acceptance, that this is the progressives pushing the normalization of pedophilia, because you cannot seem to separate pedophile from LGBTQ plus in your mind, which is just kind
No,
of
I know
disgusting.
several people who are a member of the LGBTQ community that are far from pedophiles. In fact, they have organizations such as Gays Against Groomers and shit that are so anti-pedophilic. I'm just kind of like, hey, you know what? Yeah, because what happens between two consenting adults, I don't really give two shits about. But when I do care is when you involve children in it. Just like what was it? The four kids that caught monkeypox in the past year.
Okay.
How did they catch that, Will?
No
They catch
fucking
that.
idea. I no fucking idea. But
maybe
if
you
it
should read
ended
some
up being
studies on that one.
if it ended up being 4 blue-haired liberals that fucking did it, it still wouldn't prove your point, because that's still not pushing a normalization across the entire progressive party to normalize pedophilia. Like I'm telling you,
How big is the
you're
progressive party?
grasping.
How big is the
I
progressive
don't
party?
know, but I would be willing between 20 and 30%. There's supposedly a third of the, you know,
Okay.
there's like 3 major branches of the Democratic Party supposedly, and that's one of them, the Progressive Party. So you're not even getting 30%. You know, like you can't even show that those.
No. I don't.
You can't.
So
what I'm
my
trying to say is
argument
like
not
if
the-
you can't even
my
get like
argument is not the
the
fact-
30%. You can't prove that even when you look at just those 30%
Stop, my
of
guy.
progressives that
Stop.
any of them are doing that.
'Cause
And
I
then
have
if you were to
never
look
said
at the
that it's
entire Democratic Party,
progressive party. I
Okay.
have not stated that it's the entire. I have stated that the progressives who sit back and allow it to happen. Hey, that's you. You're just
How
as
many of them?
complicit. You're not pushing it, but you're allowing it to happen. You're not speaking out against it. When
because you
see
think
something wrong,
because
should
you think I'm
speak out,
pro
shouldn't you?
because I'm pro LGBTQ plus, because I'm pro
No.
that. And you think that is
isn't what makes
normalizing
you-
pedophilia across
That's
our
not
society.
what makes you complicit.
Yeah, that's not what you're
That
going
is
to
not what
say,
makes
but
you-
that's what you're thinking.
Really?
Yeah.
My guy, you really don't want to know what I think half the time. I look at this and I go,
It's fine.
The people
I
who
mean-
are silent, who allow the vocal minority to speak out and to push these ridiculous bullshit ideas. You're
What
just
bullshit
as
ideas?
complicit as the people who are fucking doing this shit.
What
The
bullshit ideas? What are we
So
talking
the
about?
ideas
I thought we were talking about
drag your
pedophilia.
kids to Pride.
Hmm.
That is actually pushing pedophilia.
Which we-
that is
which we both
sexualizing
agreed
children.
Which
You
we both
don't-
agreed
you
was
don't like it,
bad.
but you're completely
both
fine with
agreed.
them doing it at other places.
No, I'm not. What do you mean? That's what
Well,
I'm trying to
you
say.
said you didn't like it,
I am not okay with it, and the majority of people that are in the LGBTQ plus thing do not even like
Then
it.
why is it happening?
It happens in a small amount of cities when there are thousands of cities across the entire country that have very normal, not kink-filled pride parades. The pride parades that you see that are filled with kink and all of this other shit are generally the ones that you see in what I would say are like the most crazy parts of our country, right? San Francisco, LA, places like that. You see the most kink. But there are like tons and tons of pride parades around the country that are very not kinky.
Yeah,
That are just about-
actually quite tame. Yeah,
Yeah, and that is
Yeah.
but Sparky, that's the
that's
majority of
fine.
them.
Those
But
are
that's the
fine.
majority.
but it's
But that's the
minority that gets all
majority.
the attention, and that's the problem.
But the minority is not
And-
pushing it, because if something is to be made normalized, then that would have to mean that the majority of people believe this. But we agree. The majority of LGBTQ plus people don't fuck with this shit. They really
I'm not
don't.
saying the majority. I'm saying those.
It would
that
have to be a
if you
majority, though.
Stand up and to shut these fuckers up are the problem. They are just as much of a problem as the people that are pushing it.
That is a big
Yeah.
stretch, because I would never,
it?
because hear me out. There are people on the right side of the aisle that would say really outlandish and extreme things, and I would never hold you to that standard, and I refuse to hold the right by the craziest person that I can find on that side of the aisle, because I believe in my wholest of hearts that for the most part people that are on the right are just like me. They're very
So
similar,
the-
fairly
So
similar in
big
beliefs.
difference- So the big difference, and actually, yes, I could sit there and say the final outcome that the right and the left may want kind of looks somewhat the same. Where our biggest argument is how to get there. I
Yes.
can say that. I can say that without a problem. I don't even
Thank you.
have a. But where I have the problem is when a group, be it the right or the left, I don't really care, when they allow a vocal minority to take over a narrative and try to mainstream stupid, fucking ridiculous ideas.
All right, now
this
hold on.
happens
Here's a different
quite-
debate. That's a slightly different debate. Do I think that there is a group of people inside the Progressive Party that is attempting to normalize pedophilia? Yes. Attempting. But this is a percent of a percent of a percent of the
Okay,
groups that you
so,
even remotely think are
The
doing
San
this. So
Francisco
the thing is that
Gay
it's
Men's Choir. You
but
listen to their song earlier. in your
disgusting,
stream.
disgusting song that I do not approve of.
Okay.
Disgusting song that I do not approve of, and I would not approve of a right-wing flavor of it either.
Exactly. So
Okay,
I
so-
actually watched you, and I'm like, okay, the debate's over, because that was actually progressives pushing pedophilia. It was actually
right, so
a prime
I-
example. And look, they were allowed to keep that up. They eventually took it down because of bad optics.
May I bring one anecdote? Will you forgive me for one?
God, you bring all the anecdotes you want, bro.
So I was listening to NPR that day when that song came out, and I'm sitting in my car, I turn on the radio, and the first thing I hear is just the song, right? And I'm thinking to myself, like, I turned on 89.9, like, what the fuck am I listening to right now? This is crazy. So I'm sitting here and I'm looking and I'm like, oh no, NPR is on. They're about to fucking cuck the shit out of this right now, aren't they? They actually came on and were talking about how polarizing this song was. I literally thought that they were gonna do the fucking meme that I had seen on Twitter, all day previously. Oh, this song is great. Ha 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 ha. We're gonna fucking convert your children. Like, that is cringe as fuck and also dangerous rhetoric. I would agree. Okay,
Okay,
but
so
but
the
but that
same
is
time,
but that one thing, that doesn't mean that the whole people are normalizing it, right?
so
Like,
MSNBC actually said that it was actually put out statements saying that this wasn't as bad as it could have been, and look, they were ha and a joke and all this other stuff. They were making excuses for them. Now that is
I
a
don't condone.
progressive news outlet.
Agreed.
Okay, and that's on a nationwide platform. Would you agree?
Yeah. Big
Kind of
L.
popular. I mean,
Big L.
yeah. So
Big L.
look. I'm
But
not
how many
saying,
do you got? How many you got?
but
That's a big
hold
L.
hold on, dude. Look. Here's the deal. I'm not saying every progressive is supporting it. I'm saying their silence is. For Christ's sakes, if you know what's going on and you just turn a blind eye to it, you might as well just be like the Germans who looked the other way when they saw the ash falling from the sky. It is the same thing. They knew something was happening and they let it happen because it did not affect them personally at that time. And this is the
What?
problem.
Sure.
So you know this shit is happening. And honestly, look, Will, the reason why I
What?
wanted this debate with you is because you're probably one of the most decent, nice, good faith people who I know on the left. Most of them are
Appreciate
shitsters
that.
and spinsters that would sit there and just not even address the argument. So the argument is that I have is that the people who say nothing and know that it's happening are complicit. Now I threw out bait on Twitter and you bit. That's what it all boils down to. And you think that I'm completely anti-LGBT. I'm against children being included into that. That's for damn sure. But I'm against children being included in any sexual movement because children have no fucking place in it because they are innocent. It is not until they actually develop sexually and the hormones get introduced that they become sexual beings. They are just children. They are blank slates that imitate their parents and things they see around them. They're exploring the world. They are learning. I don't believe there is a gay child. I don't believe there's a trans child. I believe they're just fucking children. And once the hormones and stuff happen during puberty, okay, then they actually develop somewhat of a sexual identity. They start to develop sexual preferences and things like that. Now I know you don't like that.
Do you have literally one scientific study backing that up? Literally one.
No, because I haven't really looked at it all that hard. I've raised children.
It's
I
just
have
because
children.
it's just because it's false.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Because Europe
for
is
instance,
actually under their medical protocol at this moment. They are actually discontinuing all trans therapies and stuff in their what do they call it when they want to accept them for who they are. I can't remember the stupid term. Something
So
that
do
you
you
should
think
never
that
do in a psychological manner. Just
do you
agree with the patient and go, yes, that's exactly what's wrong.
I'm a little confused what this has to do specifically with progressives pushing pedophilia.
Because
I
when you do
understand
things
that
to try to sexualize the children, that is what you're doing.
in
If you're
what
trying to
way is
sexualize something,
that's
you're
fine.
trying to sexualize something, you are actually trying to normalize the sexualization of it.
In
Which
what
means
way are
pedophilia.
progressives sexualizing children?
Well, let's talk about things like sex change for children. How about the 12 and 14-year-old children at the Philadelphia Children's Hospital that had their breast tissue removed because they happened to feel like, well, maybe instead of Jenny, they wanted to be Johnny. And
Well,
look, we have seen multiple stories from detransitioners, and I know anecdotal evidence, but when you start seeing the same thing over and over where they're talking about, they go in and they're like, oh, well, I think I'm this. And 2 months later, they get diagnosed with gender dysphoria and they get put on a protocol of hormones and everything else. That is not, and I've talked to people like Buck Angel, for Christ's sakes. And Buck Angel went through like a 3-year process before they even started any real hormonal treatment. So there has been an express lane put into this shit and things like the puberty blockers. Now I know progressive streamers such as Demon Mama, Valsh, friggin' Destiny. They're all about putting the kids on the hormone blockers and blocking puberty and stuff. This is ridiculous stuff. This is sexualization of children. You may not like it because it's not in your worldview, but the majority of parents, when they see other adults interested in the sexual health and behavior of their own children, they got a problem with it.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if trans people count as sexualizing children. Here's some things that I've looked up about.
Somebody clip that.
Here's something that I've been looking up about child sexuality. Between sex play between children can sometimes be seen as early as 5 to 8 years old. Such as, touching, groping, even masturbation sometimes can happen that early, between 5 and 8. Around 9 and 12, an interest, in the need for privacy, independence, the want for a boyfriend or a girlfriend, starts manifesting, right? Because it's around puberty or so. I think that trying to say like, oh, where they're sexualizing children, blah, 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 I think nature kind of let Pandora's box out on that one already, buddy. I mean, it seems to me that like it's just the natural human thing to develop your sexuality over time, almost as early as 5 years old sometimes.
Well, I mean,
and it has
the
nothing to
Greeks
do
were-
with puberty. It has nothing to do with
The
puberty.
Greeks were celebrated child molesters. And
The what?
Muslims
Wait,
are
what?
very, yeah.
Wait, hold
the
on.
big
How are you
joke-
ad homing me right now? Hold on.
No, I'm not
what's
ad
up?
hominem you. What are you, Greek?
No, I'm just like, what?
Okay,
on,
so the Greek were actually celebrated child molesters. It was quite notable in a lot of stories about how the Greeks they would make jokes about how the Greeks, if they weren't fucking sheep, they were fucking boys.
Okay, hold on. With all due
Uh,
respect, my studies are not from Greek times. Just hold on. Just like,
So-
can we engage with what I'm saying?
So hold on. Throughout history, this is not a new thing. I'm not saying it's something brand new that's popped up. Okay, in ancient history, there was jokes of people being fucking pedophiles and how disgusted people were with it. Hell, in the Muslim culture, they seem it completely fine to rape a young boy because boys are for pleasure and women are for procreation. Okay, we see this, but in the West, okay, in America, we have had issues. We have had issues with what was considered acceptable. There's actual stories in history where like 9-year-old girls were married off to adult men, which is fucking disgusting. Throughout time, what we have considered to be more and more acceptable has changed. And when you saw the sexual revolution that started happening in the 60s, a lot of that stuff started to get pushed back.
I agree.
In the state that I grew up in, of Mississippi, the age of consent I still think is fucking 12, and that's not 12, 14. That's fucking disgusting.
So here's actually, I'm going to counter your argument here. So I think that actually recent legislation, the past 10 and 20 years, would show directly the opposite. There's currently not a single state in the entire United States that has a consent that's under 16. Unless you want to talk about Shakespeare, what do they call them? Sorry, Romeo and Juliet laws. Then there's a bit of a leeway there. But the age of consent in the entire United States,
they may have raised it.
They raised it as, that's what I'm trying to tell you. They've raised it as of like 2015, I think, was like the latest one. Like Tennessee raised it from, I think, 12 to 16, right? So this is what I'm trying to say. It's just that,
but
it is a good thing. This is how we're normalizing anti-pedophilia. We're normalizing anti-child abuse. The amount of child abuse cases are going down. It used to be, oi, fuck it. Fuck it as soon as she's fucking right. And it's not like that anymore. That culture has gone away.
For that, but okay.
I'm just saying, like, we're done. Like, we're not doing this anymore. It's really the opposite. Our entire culture as a whole is unnormalizing pedophilia. And there is a small section on Twitter that you're focusing on.
In some places. So the laws have increased a little bit in some places. Cool. I'm actually for that. I think that's completely fine. However, I still see media trying to normalize this shit. trying to sit there and say, and that's what you failed to even acknowledge, accept, or anything else.
Well, I accept that there's some media.
Well, we're talking about large media. We're talking
No,
about
I accept
people
that
who
there's large
actually-
media, but I just mean like for
Okay.
there to be like a movement. I know you point to one article, but I really do think it's like the way you start a
I've
movement,
actually
right? Is you
posted several articles.
right, but it needs to be so in our faces that like we can't get away from pedophilia for something to be normalized. Like here's a good example, okay? Trans. Okay? Trans issues. Would you say the trans issues have been normalized by the Progressive Party over the past 10 years?
Yeah, trans has been
Agreed.
worked towards
Agreed.
normalization. Yeah.
I agree, 1,000,000%. And the reason why I think that the trans, whatever you want to call it, let's call it the trans agenda. It's probably not politically correct, but the trans agenda, all right? Why has that been, popular, right? Well, it's because they've been pushing the shit out of it and they're normalizing it. And we can have a debate about whether or not they should be normalizing trans issues. But if there was a push for pedophilia the way there was for trans issues, people would be fucking kids in 10 years from now. And we're not there yet. And if we come back and we're not even remotely there yet, and if we come back, let's say like 10 years or 5 years from now or something, right? And we rehab this debate, and it turns out that like Democrats have made this big push to like push legislation, and there is all of these articles, and like there are like a like 500 teachers are getting arrested every year, and it's increasing exponentially, right? Like, and child sex abuse is going up. Then I think there would be a reasonable argument to make that somebody is pushing for pedophilia normalization. But at the current moment in history, conservatives aren't doing it. Democrats, progressives aren't doing it. No one is doing it. There's no pedophilia normalization going on. And this is good news. Like, this is good.
So I'm not saying it's the majority. This is you're refusing to address the issue. So Virginia Old Dominion University professor who has since resigned, Alan Walker, age 34, finally decided to resign from their position at Old Dominion. This was a person who wrote an entire book about minor attracted people and about how this is a good thing. And honestly, it was along the line of the Mr. Girl discussion that happened not too long ago, where he was talking about how we need to normalize these conversations so people are more willing to get help.
Yeah, which I agree with.
Um,
Well, can we say something really quick? I want to normalize positive conversations, not so much like we're trying to make it, more. There are obviously, Sparky, and there are probably more ways to have a. What am I trying to say? So you and me have a conversation about pedophilia, or we have a conversation with like a pedophilia expert about pedophilia, right? There are probably more ways to do that conversation wrong than there are ways to have that conversation right. You know what I mean? Because I think that when you talk to someone like that, you really need to make sure that you're doing your due diligence to make sure that you're not, accepting a pedophile sympathizer, right? So I just, with all due respect, I don't know what Mr. Girl did, but he is a small YouTuber. He is not representative of the Progressive Party or a progressive movement. I just want to throw that out there too.
So there are even a decent amount of academic articles, that you like those, about pedophilia being a sexual orientation, and this is a push that people like Mr. Girl are trying to do right now. They want to actually push it as a sexual orientation. Why? Because not only like 3 years ago, the whole conversation was, is sexual orientation, is that something that you can hold against someone? Because that's an innate, that's a quality that isn't chosen. It's yada yada. So
yeah, you might be born with the born with the attraction. Yeah.
Yeah, which I don't know all about that. I don't. But the fact that they are wanting to push pedophilia as a sexual orientation, that is being pushed right now through academia. Looking at this article right here.
Sorry.
And let me see.
Can I give you this
one?
This was
in 2012. This was in 2012.
Can I give you this one so we can discuss it a bit?
Sure.
Yeah. So I agree. I've seen some articles on that recently, and the thing that bothers me is that basically two different groups will do the same research, but then they'll have different kind of ways that they either do the methodology for it or the way that they summarize it at the end. But I think the main takeaway that, like, if you just want to go and like read the research yourself, like skip the abstract so that you can go and like read everything and make a determination for yourself. I think that the more reputable scientists in this field, they compare it to a sexuality in the way that it's something that is innate. This might be something that you're born with. This might be something, something more in your genetics, right? In your rather than something in your environment that is triggering this. Similar to asexuality, right? Because I'm not saying pedophilia is a sexuality, but similar to asexuality, like being gay or being a lesbian. A lot of people that are gay or lesbian, they exhibit these feelings from an extremely early age. And pedophiles know usually very early on that they feel these urges in a similar way. So some people will make the jump to be like, well, so we should treat pedophilia like a sexuality at that point. And then other people will say, well, no, there's other things about sexualities, there's other characteristics that are not the same as pedophilia. It's like, do we feel like that's a good faith interpretation of how I read that data? You know what I mean? So like, I agree that there are some people that are doing that. I just think that
I
they're
know
wrong,
the direction that you're
you know?
going, but see, the deal is the fact that there are a lot of people who actually support these kind of ideas, and the more that it becomes mainstream, because when things are in academia, most people don't see this stuff. Journalists don't talk about it, and when someone who wants to claim that if it's not an academic study, it's not valid. It's anecdotal bullshit. You've played this game with me today. I'm telling you, it's not just anecdotal bullshit, because when you can find multiple examples of it, it's not anecdotal. We're actually starting to see trends. And just because you cannot find an academic study, and a good bit of academic studies, especially on the sociological wavelength, is all done by the students.
Yeah, or
It's all
self-reporting.
students.
Yeah. It's not. I don't want to go there, but I'm willing to give you that a lot of sociological studies are done by self-reporting, which is, it's not necessarily the most valid way of conducting a study. But my thing is just
I'm
like,
not
you already
against using
hold
those
on.
things as a
You already
point
said
to a point, but there's a lot of it where you have to look at it and say, well, if they polled students and they're talking about issues like raising children, how the fuck do they know anything about that?
just because
Zen is just about to have a child. You're probably scared, Zen. You shouldn't be. It's going to be tough. But here's the reality. None of us are ever ready before we have a child until we have them, and then we figure it out. We make mistakes along the way and things like that. But no one's an expert. And a bunch of college students definitely aren't experts on a lot of things in life. And a lot of older people aren't experts on things outside of their wheelhouse as well.
I mean, fuck, I'm
Experience
obviously
matters.
not a sociologist, right? But hear me out though. Like, I think that the thing about the studies though, which at least is useful, is that at least they point out like, well, we talked to, 400 people and we did X and they lay it out, and if you were to take the article as truth, then at least you don't have to believe their conclusion. You can come to your own conclusion after they do the methodology, right? So my thing is that I think it would be a really interesting experiment if maybe we were able to have someone that does like word analysis, right? Like they could and they could do import the New York Times, right? Every day. And they could get every single article, and they could do like, analysis on what's being written in the New York Times. And what if we were able to find like, oh my God, like the New York Times is posting like a lot about pedophilia. Like even if it's not even in the article title, like they're saying pedophilia like 300 times a day, and no one is noticing this because no one reads the newspaper anymore besides these like 53 million, you know what I mean? Like, but I think that there would be people that are on your side, like your side of the aisle, that would be like itching for this analysis. So like I find it hard to believe that if it existed out there, what I'm saying, that it wouldn't have been found by people on your side of the aisle.
Okay.
And I did.
Do you know how studies actually are approved and disapproved? Do you understand that process?
Hold on. Regardless of the peer-reviewed process, do you understand
No.
what I'm saying?
No. It's not even at peer review for the study to occur. Do you even know how that happens?
Well, there would have to be somebody that wants to do the study. It would have to be funded. And then it would.
Then
it would
they
start,
have to.
presumably.
Then they have to go to an academic board. They have to pitch it.
Well, hold on now. There are tons of studies that are done by independent things, right? Like right-wing and left-wing
so
think tanks
the
and
the
stuff like that.
majority of studies that happen, they happen at the academic level. They're usually funded through state or federal funds. And in order for those funds to be released to the individual, they have to actually propose it to a board, usually of 5 people, and the board has to agree. Now, would you agree that there happens to be a bit of a ideological lean within higher education? You can accept that there is such a thing that exists, right?
All right, so here's what I'm going to say to this because I don't want this to be a giant roadblock, but my actual opinion is that I don't think that there is a large enough amount of evidence to show that there is a huge left-wing bias. Like, even after all the specific teachers got fired, I don't necessarily think that that's even enough evidence. But listen, for the sake of the conversation, I'm willing to give you like 60-40. All right,
Okay,
universities are
so
maybe
so
60%
we'll
more
we'll use
progressive.
we'll use that deal.
Okay,
So
fine.
if you need three of those people on the board to agree to accept the premise of your study and to fund it, if you need 3 out of 5, which most colleges require 4 out of 5 because they want 80%. They want absolute academic integrity with it.
Are
There
we just
are
proposing that all the studies are just fucked? Like, we can't use studies
No,
for
I'm
anything
not
because
saying no, I'm
they have
not
a
saying that at
bias?
all. But I am saying that some things are not pursued because of the process in order to get them approved to begin with.
But
So
PragerU dumps so much. There are
PragerU
so
is not a
many.
university.
No, no,
Stop
no.
it.
Hold on. No, that's not what I'm saying. Hold on. I'm not saying that PragerU is a university. I'm just saying that they have a lot of money. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that there are a lot of right-wing organizations that have a lot of money. There's a lot of incentive
There
for,
are
like,
think tanks that do those kind of stuff.
I
I
mean, the
will
Daily
admit.
Wire. The Daily Wire is doing the really, and honestly, even though I don't necessarily agree with what they say, I'm really enjoying all of the investigative research that the Daily Wire is doing now. I really appreciate it. Someone at the Daily Wire would be itching for a story like this if it existed. You know what I mean? So I
Um,
just don't. I don't think we're really seeing this
so
come up.
to
You
do a
know?
word statistical analysis like what you're suggesting, which is actually kind of a brilliant idea. Okay, in
I think
order to
it'd be
do
really
that,
cool. Like, I would eat my
the amount of
words,
money
right?
the
Like,
amount of money that it would require and the development of the software and whatnot, which I'm
it's
sure
already
there is some
developed.
software that does that kind of stuff, but you have to get rights to it. You
Yeah.
have to find it.
Well, no, no,
I
there are
don't know what it is
professional
about
people.
that.
No, no, there are professional people, and literally, because I've talked to one, and it was about a subreddit. Okay, they did a word analysis on a subreddit to predict trends within the subreddit.
Hmm.
Right, so it totally exists. This is really not that far out. Like, it would be very easy to hire a researcher to do this. It would cost some money, sure, but conservatives make more money than liberals anyways, right? Like, you guys got money. Like, you guys could do it. I
Citations needed, my guy.
hey, maybe that's not real. You know what I mean? Republicans are usually seen as the more fiscally conservative, better off
So
physically.
fiscally conservative versus makes more money. Yeah, the
Maybe it's a bit of a
citations
stretch,
needed.
right? Bit of a
Yeah,
stretch.
that's a bit of a stretch because if you look at
You-
Hollywood and everything else, the majority of people who make the
That's
more
a good
amount of
point.
money
That's true. That's a good point.
um,
Like Facebook and
tend to be
stuff.
quite
Like,
liberal.
that's a good point. But you're
I mean,
right there with, but you gotta admit, there's a lot of money on the right wing. Like, I think that it's not crazy to
there's
think
money
that
everywhere. There's money everywhere. It's the question is are people have
Sparky,
people like honestly, I've never thought of that the word analysis thing. I haven't thought about that.
I've done 12 hours of research for this debate because I was desperate to find something like something very similar in this vein that I really dislike is when liberals say there's a transgender genocide going on right now. Obviously, there's not. And I can argue why there's not a trans genocide using the exact same talking points as why there's not a left-wing push for pedo normalization. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's literally and the people on the left will make the exact same arguments that you're making, but with different evidence, right? And this is kind of the crux of my argument, is that I just think that there's no systemic push for pedo normalization, just like I do not think that there is any systemic push for transgender genocide, right?
So I'm not sitting there. My claim has never been that it is systemic. My claim, I'll go back and read it. I'll go right to the crux of it.
Okay. If I use
Okay,
systemic in
our
that offended
pedophilic
you, I
progressives
apologize.
continue to blind their eyes from these patterns, they are in fact complicit. Complicit to what? Progressives are pushing the normalization of sexualizing children. So if you see it happening and you say nothing and you do nothing to shut these people down, you are in fact complicit. You are no better than the people outside of Auschwitz getting rained ash on and going, oh, this is perfectly fine. You are literally the dog inside the house on fire, and this is fine. When you see it and you say nothing, you are complicit. If you see someone shoot another person in the head and you do not bear witness against that crime, you are complicit. This has been the crux of my entire thing that you said does not exist. We know it exists. We have seen it. I have delivered proof to you, and you said it's significantly insignificant. You also stated that trans people are statistically insignificant, based and hilarious, but no.
Well, there's no. Wait, yeah, like I agree. There's no push. Like, what do you mean? Like, what?
The fact that the New York Times is pushing pedophilic fucking ideas. If that is not mainstream, sir, I do not know what is.
If 90, so your premise is that like 99% of progressives are looking the other way, while the 1% of extremist progressives are pushing for crazy rhetoric.
Well,
and what you're attempting to do is whatever, make it 5, 10. I don't give a fuck. Make whatever percentage you want. Whatever it is, it's an extreme minority. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to chastise, the entire Progressive Party with this extreme minority. Because here's the thing, Sparky. Would you agree that there is a extreme minority inside of the Conservative Party that would like to murder trans people?
Oh, there's probably a small minority inside even progressives that would want to do that.
There you go. Exactly. But the thing is that exactly, Sparky. There's sickos everywhere.
You know what?
But I would never go and I would never say conservatives are pushing trans genocide normalization. And listen, the reason that I can prove to you, why I can prove to you that all of the Democrats and liberals are saying no is that there is no legislation being pushed, and the majority of the events and the majority of the pride parades don't have any of this shit in it. You can pick to a very few minute cases that I disagree with and the majority of progressives would disagree with.
Still allow them to happen.
But Sparky,
progressives.
Sparky,
the majority of progressives disagree with this, why do they still allow it to happen?
If the majority of conservatives don't agree with this, why do they still let it happen? With the trans genocide, why do you still let those people talk about the trans genocide?
No,
the one that doesn't exist. But hey, Sparky, we really shouldn't call for like the extermination. I think we should censor people that call to violence. I think we should censor people that call to violence. Like if I call to violence against you, I should be censored. If I say everybody go out and commit harm against Sparky, I should get censored. Yeah, that's bad.
I think all pedophiles should report to the local mulching facility for re-education. I think that's a good policy, but it's not something I would force. Okay? But here's the deal. I think that people should be allowed to say damn near anything. Yeah, sure, to call in for violence because of legality and stuff, right?
But it's not just legality. It's more than that though. Like even if it was illegal,
but in the conservative movement, if someone said something fucked up, like, you know what? I think we need to go through and crucify every trans person we meet. Vast majority of us go, oh, wait a minute there. No, we don't support that. No, you probably shouldn't say that. But hey, we're going to drag your kid to fucking Pride. Yeah, that's completely fine. Wow. What a catchy phrase, everybody. Let's drag the kid to Pride. Nothing screams consent like dragging a child.
I get that. The thing is that if I say the things that I'm saying now and I go on Twitter, I'm going to have an equal amount of right-wingers that are shitting on me for the exact same thing. So I'm just saying, like, Twitter or online spaces, I really don't think that they're a good, like, barometer for how sane our policies are and how normalized they are in our society. And if they are, we're fucked. So...
I just
look at If I
what is allowed from the most censorious group in America, which and I'm not probably well, you know what? I'll take that back. Maybe progressives themselves aren't the most censorious, but the left definitely is as a whole. I think you can agree with that. They
well,
allow so much disgusting shit to be pushed through. And
like what?
look,
This is
everything
what
is
I'm
a
trying to
moral
say,
panic.
Sparky. Hold on, Sparky. This is what I'm trying to say. What's the disgusting shit that they're pushing through? That
How about it's completely acceptable for a 30-year-old man with fucking surgically augmented breasts to fucking twerk in front of an 8-year-old child at a public parade?
see
Oh yeah, that's completely fine.
most progressives would not be for that.
But the deal is, it happens and no one is stopping it from the
But
progressive side. If it was conservative, when conservatives speak out against it, oh, well, we're just intolerant fucking bigots. And in a way, sure, I'll wear that. I don't give a shit. But at the end of the day, you're a fucking pedo if I'm a fucking intolerant bigot because you allow it to happen. You see it happen, you go, no, I don't like this, but hey, their freedom of expression, everything. We can't hold back
the way
Zer's
that I like to
fucking
see it is that
sexuality.
I think that there are people with a vested interest in keeping us scared and really
Hmm.
polarized. Like, I think that Republicans, Republicans in power specifically, not like not the half of America, the Republicans in power, like, they have to do certain things to make sure that they get votes, right? And the Democrats
You
are the
think
exact same way. The Democrats are the exact same way, right?
but let me
But,
ask you
but,
this: Do you
but
think
here, but at the end of the
that
day,
my
when all of the,
abhorrence of this is something pushed by politicians? You
no,
think this isn't
not at
a
all.
natural repulsion to the fucking disgusting society that we have developed?
I'm repulsed by pedophilia.
I'm repulsed by a lot of things that liberalism has allowed to occur.
But pedophilia isn't one of those things.
Hmm. We'll disagree.
Okay, I think that's a fair point to end it right there. um, if you guys have anything else you want to hash out, you can do that. But if we want to move into closing statements, if you guys are comfortable with doing that, that's where we'll go.
Yes, sir.
Aircraft, you opened, so we will let Will close first, and then Aircraft will get the last word, and then we'll get into Q&A and some callers. So you got 7
Thanks
minutes.
for.
You can use it or yield it. Up to you. Yeah.
Oh shit! It won't even be remotely that long. I just want to say thanks, Crucible, for having me on. Thank you, Zen Shapiro, for moderating the debate today. Bit of inside baseball, but I always really like it when you're on the debates. I think you have really fun points, Zen Shapiro. Um, and yeah, Sparky, thanks for coming on. I think you've been pretty good faith in this conversation. I've appreciated you keeping it TOS as well. Basically, just to sum it up, I really do not think that any evidence has really been brought forward to suggest that progressives, Democrats, the left, however you want to define it or not define it, as large a group or as small a group, you can't really point to anything tangible that would really symbolize that that group is normalizing pedophilia. We have drag shows for children, which no one should be for various amounts of reasons. We have horrible books that are currently banned, right? The system is working, and they should remain banned. In any of the places that haven't banned them yet, I honestly am fairly certain that over an extended period of time, they will probably ban those books. We haven't seen any legislation that would suggest that the left or progressives are trying to normalize pedophilia. It's just scare tactics. It's people that make a lot of money off of scaring conservatives, saying that, they're coming after your kids and they're pushing pedophilia. And those are the same people that are scaring Democrats into saying, hey, the fucking Republicans, the rhinos, are fucking trying to go and murder transgender people. It's all just extremist rhetoric at the end of the day, and we really should try to, do our due diligence to sift through as much of the anecdotes and the research and the shitty research and the good research and there really just needs to be a lot more nuance in conversations in general. And I even though I don't think I convinced Aircraft Sparky today, I appreciate that. I think we were able to get into some of that nuance today. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And that being said, we'll go into Aircraft Sparky. I do want to remind everybody quickly, we are taking callers, so get that link from the Discord mods if you want to ask any questions, and send in those super chats if you want to ask questions or talk shit. It's up to you. Just send us all your money. Anyway, go ahead, Aircraft, with your closing statement.
All right. So there's no such thing as enough evidence. Evidently, we could bring up individual incidences and stuff, and it amounts to a whole lot of nothing at the end. Got it. Don't agree with it, but hey, look, that's the way my opponent wanted to take this discussion. Look, what we have seen is an over inclusion of children into sexual spaces over the past couple of years. This has been happening through discussions online with such degenerates such as Vosh, Mr. Girl, even Destiny entertains these kind of discussions every now and then. And it is the progressive internet that is talking about these things, about trying to bring them more up to the mainstream. We see publications such as the New York Times, and yes, Seth, the New York Post is conservative, but yet they have these opinion pieces that come out. When you see these publications being pushed out to the masses, where it is little by little. That is how grooming works. It doesn't, you show up one day and you say, hey kids, some people have two daddies, and then three days later you're molesting them. That's not how this works. Okay, it's small incremental movements. They are measured, and sometimes they fail. But we have seen over the past year, we have seen adult men twerking in front of children at pride parades. We have seen these disgusting books that were brought into our children's schools, and the children are being encouraged to read. And then when a state actually goes through the process of passing a law stating that you can't talk about sexuality with children under a certain age, the mainstream media and the progressive wing wants to call it the Don't Say Gay bill, and they try to just demonize the shit out of the good people of Florida for passing a law to protect their own children. The sexualization of children is happening. Now, I picked the progressives when I threw out the little bait on Twitter because, well, it's closer to the target than anything. And where it may not be the majority of the progressives that are doing it, I feel that the vocal minority is being allowed to remain vocal because the majority refuses to speak out. If you see something that is bad, that is against your moral ethics and codes, you are going to be physically repulsed, and you should probably speak out against it. The silence is deafening. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Zen, for your moderation, and thank you, Andrew, for giving us this platform to speak on. And Will, you're good peeps, man. We don't agree, but at least we don't have to yell slurs at each other all day.
All right. Thank you guys for that. It was a good debate, good interaction. Very, very contentious, but also civil, kind of like I expected.
My